and everything. So I'll host you in. Yeah, we'll just jump in and I'll introduce you and everything.
Cool. Yeah, I can send it to you after.
Great. All right. All right, folks. So I'm joined with Keegan Smith from Uncommon Success today. Myself and Keegan talked in 2021. It was a very interesting podcast. We touched on a lot of things like cryptocurrency, fitness, approaching skills, language learning. It was a very interesting podcast, and I talked to Keegan a few weeks back, and I thought it'd be really cool to get him to kind of give an update about what he's building every 2 to 3 months because he's doing some pretty phenomenal work with the Uncommon Success Network. I joined the network about 3 to 4 months ago, and we're going to really just unpackage what's actually happening in there because it's a phenomenal place for men to really level up. So we're going to get into all that. But Keegan, do you want to just maybe tell people who you are very quickly, who maybe don't know who you are, and then we can kind of jump into the details of everything that you're working on.
Excellent. Thanks for having me back, Conor. And yeah, you've got the ultimate high-tech setup there, and I'm borrowing my son's headphones to try and improve the audio quality for those tuning in here. But thanks for the chance to share. I'm here in Paraguay at the moment. The journey to building these ultimate locations for the development of men and of families continues. To circle back a little bit to where it began, there was an early distrust in the system and dissatisfaction in the status quo that went through school. I think a lot of us feel as though, hey, this place isn't getting the best out of me. It probably isn't even designed to get the best out of me. And so it's all come from there to here. Along the way, I spent years in Latin America and taught English and backpacked and slept on floors. And I worked as a youth worker in Outback Australia for 7 months. I lived with Indigenous communities in Mexico and had all these adventures to try and find a beautiful culture to be a part of and something worthwhile to do with my life. And I wasn't really finding something that was filling me where I felt like I was useful and that I was getting the best out of myself. And so I stopped that adventure at 28, went to professional sport. Again, I'd done an exercise science degree, and my father's all in, my family's all in the world of rugby league. So I went and worked in rugby league again. I had 4 years full-time running the strength and speed and nutrition for first the Catalan Dragons in Europe and then the Sydney Roosters in Australia. We had some great results with that, and that catalyzed the chance to work with, I left that world to work with men and to sort of continue that journey of how do I find a great culture to be a part of. And since I didn't really find what I was looking for, I decided to build it. So in 2014, I launched my first business, and I've been building businesses that get the best out of men, first through community-based gyms and then more with online coaching. And now it's more general towards any man who really would like to be in an environment that challenges him to become kind of a modern Renaissance man or a polymath. This is the ideal that I set for myself and for my son. And there's other men out there who have these same sort of ideals of if we can organize the food supply and if we can get some good people together, then maybe we can get a lot more out of ourselves than what we have so far. So that's probably the story in brief of how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, mate. It's actually really cool because I jumped on a call with you it was like 4 weeks ago, and you were speaking French like fluently. So it's a lot of people offer fitness or investing or money coaching or language learning, but you're offering really everything to level up as a person. So do you want to maybe talk about what was the first thing? Was it sports that you first kind of developed the skill acquisition abilities, and then you started crossing over into languages, or how did all that come about?
I've built the thing that I want for myself, Conor. It's not that I'm the master of French or Spanish but I love learning languages, and it was really powerful for me to learn other languages. When I was told at school I'm not very good at languages, and then I became fluent in Spanish, and that was part of me self-actualizing and realizing I could do more. So I want that experience for other men. I'm not the master in language learning, but I'm a student, and we're building great systems around how to learn languages faster. The hypothesis is that we can do everything better than we're currently doing it, and we should explore how to do that. So yeah, ultimately that's the pursuit, is to build a system that gives everyone the opportunity to build solutions and to express themselves, and then be challenged by the solutions that others build. And that, on the grand scale, that's what civilization is. And since some of that's being lost, the essence of Western civilization, culture's changing. We can all see these culture wars going on, and people being told they're perfect just the way they are and they don't need to develop themselves and such. Okay, if some people want to live like that, that's fine. But there's others who know that they want to live a different reality. And for those people, we're building something, and it's what I want for myself. It's what I want for my son. And there's other men out there that have similar values. So that's really what it is in a nutshell.
Yeah, and then like when you went from professional sports, you were saying that you wanted to start building something for men that you wanted to have for yourself. Where did that come from? Like, were you feeling like that you were lacking that in your own life, or did that motivation come from?
I think it's from the soul. I think we have a soul purpose. I think deep inside of us, there's something that needs to be expressed, that we should express. And when we're not expressing it, there's a deep sadness or a deep knowing that we're not on the path of our soul destiny. I don't know if that's true. I'm not telling everyone else they have to believe that, but that is my experience. And I think we're more similar than different. If I've experienced this, I know what it feels like to not be on my soul purpose and to feel like, man, life's tough and this is rough and I don't really want to be here. And what am I doing? And I had really dark times in my teens and 20s. And I empathize with men who are in that time now. And I would say, there is something better for you. Don't be dominated by money. Don't just live based on the financial outcomes of what you do. When I wasn't, I had no money in my 20s, but I saved a little bit of money from being a pool lifeguard and a swim teacher. And I was able to use that to go and travel Latin America. And I had maybe $10,000, $8,000 or something to make my way from Mexico to Chile. And that was enough time to think, Conor. Like, I had the opportunity to think of like, okay, how does this thing work? What are we really doing? What would we do if we had the opportunity to design from scratch a great life? And what kept coming up for me, because I was looking at all the wasted potential of like, well, this schooling system's not getting the best out of these children. And I saw the Latin American schooling system, and it's worse than what I'd experienced myself in Australia and understanding the West. I was looking at that and thinking, that's not it. And seeing all these people lined up selling the same stuff in the streets, trinkets and stuff to tourists, I'm thinking that's not it. This is not the best way that life can be lived and that people can express themselves. And so it begs the question, well, what is it? And it kept recurring to me of like, okay, need to get land, need to get food supply organized, and need to get some other people who have this same question recurring to them. And let's see what we can come up with. What would we create? And the more I explored that, I think that question has been reverberating in the souls and minds of great men for a long time. And they did it. Like, the Renaissance was a real thing. They spoke multiple languages. They played classical music. They made beautiful art. They made beautiful buildings that have lasted for centuries. And they're all symbols of deep and like amazing beauty and what we're capable of. And their lives become an expression, an artistic expression of the divine beauty of like how beautiful things can be. And you listen to that music and you walk into those buildings and you just know. And so that has been lost. We often think, and we're being told that we're in the most advanced time and it's never been this good. And I think we've lost a lot from other times. And even looking back 100 years ago, classical music, like children learning instruments, everyone speaking at least French and German if they come out of a good British schooling system. I think we've stepped back a lot, and you can go deeply into the reasons why that's been, engineered, or is it by accident? It doesn't really matter. What matters is, what do we want? And at the moment, I don't really see any strong opposition to doing what we want. Like, I'm building villages around the world. I'm building the ultimate technology. No one's holding anything back. Maybe it'll get to that point. People do say, oh, there's big opposition to this. I'm not seeing it. Like, let's create the best things that we can imagine. And if there's blocks, like, let's work through that in the best way that we can. So yeah, it's been in me for a long time. And I don't know, is there something in you? Like, do you feel what I'm talking about as well?
Yeah, totally, man. I think the big thing that Uncom is fulfilling for a lot of people, and myself included, is like a definitely a connection with people who want to achieve the same thing. Because sometimes growing up in a certain area, people mightn't want to do what you want to do. And since coming into Oncom, everyone's trying to win together. That's what I really like about it. That there's not this I'll do better if you do worse. It's like, hey, if we all do better together, we'll all win together. And I think that's a really nice ethos that comes through. Like, people are competitive, but competitive about themselves. It's not like I'll win so Keegan loses or vice versa. But I think it really comes across through you especially, man. Like, you're very clearly want other people to level up, and there's no tall poppy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is a good discussion point, Connor, because the common man thinks he's going to do it alone. He's like, yeah, I'm a bit of a lone wolf, or I just need to knuckle down and work harder. That's not going to work. You cannot knuckle down and understand what's going on in the world of crypto, the latest in Facebook marketing, the best technology, and understand farming, and then homeschool your children. And it's simply not going to happen with you doing it, solving it all on your own. And in a way, I feel like I'm still kind of solving it all on my own to an extent. I do have a ton of support and team around me. And it's like, but I know it can go a lot further in terms of our integration and cooperation and having these physical villages. And if you zoom out and you think, well, okay, the schooling system educated us that we need to find the answers on our own. It's called cheating if you ask somebody else for the answer. And you need to be able to repeat back to me what I've told you. There's one correct answer. Like, these are the values that we learn through the industrialized schooling system. And that had a purpose, and that was designed to get society to a certain point. We're beyond that time now. The answers are all on the internet. And in business, you get to ask other people for help. You get to be the dumbest person in the room and still be extremely successful. That goes back, Henry Ford, they try to make him appear to be a fool. They ask him questions about things like, well, I don't know, but my team knows, and I've got access to those people. So who's the fool? And that's really what it should be. I don't need to know about every intricacy of what's happening next in the crypto markets and central bank digital currencies and such. But I want someone in my network who I can have an intelligent conversation with about that. It's the only way now. It really is the only way. Those who think they're going to do something exceptional on their own, it's probably never worked, but it's going to work less than ever right now. There's always a big team. Think about, if you look at Elon Musk, if you look at the most successful men that you can imagine, what would their support networks look like? They have massive leverage of, they're building all these different businesses. They've got all these executives reporting to them, but they've got many assistants and organizers helping them to do what they're doing. So for a man to think, I'm going to do something great on my own, it's not going to happen. You can either, we have you buy into an environment where men have made this decision, and that investment goes towards the villages, it goes towards the infrastructure, and it's a business. That's not the only way, but you have to create this environment around yourself of, doing a podcast is a great way to build this environment organically. You do podcasts with people, and then you stay in touch with the best people that you connect with, and you start to form this elite mastermind around you where you can go to them to say, hey, do you want to do an affiliate marketing deal together? Or do you want to, should we go into this project? Should we go on holidays together with our families? Like, whatever it's going to be, you have to have that network. And it goes back to that schooling system of what you do for the first 20 years of your life. You're told consistently, okay, work it out on your own. And then you have to unlearn that stuff. The time in Latin America for me was a lot of unlearning of like, okay, the values that I learned in school are not going to get me a life that I want. And we do have a really cooperative environment now within Uncommon Success, Connor, but it's not like we're all holding hands as well. It's like, what value do you have to bring to me? What value can I bring to you? And yeah, we respect each other. We enjoy each other's company, but it's like, okay, let's level up together versus just being it's not like a men's work supportive environment where you're perfect just the way you are and we're all going to hug each other. We do hug each other, and there is that loving side to what we do, but there's also like, what value you're going to bring, and how are you leveling up at the moment? And it's not always, I still have strong competitive components to myself, and I still have that kind of some level of like selfishness. I think we all have this stuff, but it's like, how do you create co-incentives where you doing much better is great for me and me doing better is great for you? if you create that environment, then it doesn't really matter where the motivation is coming from. It's like we have to move together. And sometimes it does come from a place of really like loving and like this guy's on an amazing journey. I'm supporting his stuff. Other times it is more like strategic of, well, if his business gets to here, then that's going to help with that. And then eventually we're going to have these locations that we can get to for these 5-star experiences, or the families are going to get there and such. So it's both. It's not just that loving side. I hope that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. It's like a symbiotic relationship. Like
Yeah.
you win and I win and everyone in the network wins if everyone gets better,
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And I want to go into like the weeds and really you to kind of unpackage Uncom more, like how you decided what it included and everything. But first I want to talk about mentorship before then. So like you're known now as, the guy who's mentored a lot of really high level people. So when did that skill set start growing within you, and who's your mentor as well, or who were your mentors over the years?
Yeah, good question. My father's a rugby league coach. So before I even have memories, I was probably sitting there listening to him instructing players and his team of coaches about, this is what we're doing, this is the session plan, this is the game plan for today. I think it's quite deeply programmed into me to be coaching and developing. And I remember myself as a 7-year-old absolutely loving teaching my friend to catch and throw. I'd spent a lot more time working on skills than he had. I remember loving it. I think it's deeply wired into me to enjoy coaching. And by the time I was 18, I was coaching regional teams, and I coached state teams. I coached adult men's teams in my late teens and early 20s, like state level. So it's been in there for a while. I've always kind of loved it. And how do you develop that? I think for me, it's always been that I can always see more for someone. And I see it for myself. I see it for other men. And I instinctively and inherently want to see them see more of what they're capable of. And we probably all have this, but I have an ability to get that message across in a way that the other person's likely to take more action, believe in themselves more, get more done than what they might have otherwise. So yeah, that's the game of mentoring. Sometimes you can imagine it's sort of like one person, or you have to pay the person, or it's a really formal thing. I have had those formal relationships with mentors. The mentor on Australian TV, Mark Burris, he had a $450 million exit from a finance company. He was probably my first real mentor. He offered to support me to get started in business in 2014. I was very curious about how business works, and we had the opportunity to have a coffee, and then we had maybe 6 phone calls and some emails, and still remember things that he taught me. And that was a really fortunate opportunity. That was before he was the mentor on television. Like you might have seen some of those shows, but he did give me some really good concepts about business. But looking back, I had no frame of reference. I had no foundation. I didn't really want to have a business probably until 3 years ago. And I'd already been in business for 7 years by that time. I was just doing what I knew I wanted to coach men, but I didn't really care about business. I didn't care about marketing. I didn't care about having sales teams. I didn't care about managing a team. And I've realized like, oh, there's a lot more to learn about that. But Mark Burris was a significant impactor. All the people along the way, Trent Robinson was the coach of the rugby league teams that I worked with, the Catalan Dragons and then the City Roosters. And my brother is a rugby league coach, my father, like seeing how consistent they were in addressing a group of alpha men and being able to manage those kind of organizations. They were definitely mentors to me, and seeing the consistency that you have to be the head of a rugby league organization. That was a big inspiration, support. And then Paul Council has been a big one. You can see his content within the Uncommon Pro, and there's free stuff within the Uncommon Man app. So giving that away to anyone. man.uncom.io is the address to get to that. His content around money codes and spiral dynamics is there within the Uncommon Man app. The way he broke down and how society works, how the mind works, psychology, even without touching on the business and money stuff, it completely changed the way I look at the world in such a beautiful way. Like I can't remember who I was before those conversations that started in 2020. It really deeply impacted my view of the world. And I still feel like I have a long way to go as a student of his, and I want to go on more journeys with him. He presents for us once a month at the moment within the pro game, but there's more to be done there, I hope. He's in his 70s, so we need to take the opportunity there. I think he's going to have a lot more years, but I went and saw Bob Proctor. The most I ever invested myself was to go and spend 5 days with Bob Proctor. And I listened to his success puzzle over and over. You can find that on YouTube. It's a 6-hour program. Probably listened to it 50 times. And that was one of the first things that got me excited about success and understanding I can do more. And that solidified the vision of the villages. If in my 20s, it was rolling around my head, it was listening to that success puzzle, thinking about what he calls the worthy ideal, Earl Nightingale's worthy ideal. I wrote it down and I started telling people 3 villages around the world, places where you can go, where you level up. And I wrote it down, and it sounded crazy to me at the time. I didn't have a business. I didn't have a network. I was a rugby league coach working in Sydney with the Sydney Roosters, about to have my first child.
What
Now,
year was this made?
2013. 2013, 2014. And then the biggest investment I ever made was to go and spend 5 days with Bob Proctor in Hawaii. And I invested $65,000 to go and be in a 5-star hotel and be around. And I was definitely the poorest person in the room. I didn't own a house at the time. My car was worth about 10 grand. And I made that investment in myself. And it was big for me to make that big step. But yeah, Bob Proctor's been an influence. Paul Council, Charles Poliquin was a big influence. I went to many of his workshops, and he put me forward for a couple of roles here and there. I know he mentioned to other people that he respected that I worked hard in my field, and it was it was a value. He was a connection that I valued, and having the chance to have lunch with him a couple of times, and I had a private consult with him. Again, I invested £400 to have half an hour with him when I went to a biosignature workshop when I had no money. I was just getting started in France. I was making a few $1,000s a month, and I invested that money to spend some time with him. I'm very, very happy with all of those investments to help level myself up. Ben Patrick has been another one as well, and I kind of single him out as a key partnership. Like, that's the thing I wanted to say about mentorship is it's not necessarily just one way. Most of those ones were kind of one way. Like, they were way ahead of me and they had stuff to share with me that blew my mind. With Ben Patrick, he's blown my mind, and I think I helped him as well. I challenged him of, what are you going to do with the success? You've got this amazing system. Like, let's get it out to the world. Like, these are the conversations we had in 2018. Same with Nico Di Paoli. Like, he's helped me a lot, and I know that I've influenced him. You can see the first conversations when we're first talking about the idea of Bali Time Chamber. Like, we captured one of those conversations before it was launched, when we were just still wrestling with the idea of, should we do this? And I spent a month there with him, and we were convincing each other of, should this be a place that's like an uncommon village, or should it just be a tourist project and just make money just holding tourists? And so, that mastermind was really powerful. And that's a good example of how, when you keep spending time with people who have big visions, good things happen. Now the Bali Time Chamber has 200,000 followers. There's over 10,000 men have applied, to go to the Bali Time Chamber. And we're changing the world. Like, that concept's,
I didn't realize those numbers, man. That's insane.
Yeah, it's like men are crying, screaming, dying literally for lack of this opportunity to connect to each other and to be held to a high standard. And that's why I know we're onto something special with Uncommon Success. We haven't done a great job of getting the message across just yet, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it again today. Because I know if people understood what was really going on, we would have significantly more players in the game. But we've been focused on making the product better and better and innovating, and that's the key. So these are mentors of mine, but then the two-way thing between Ben Patrick and Nico and Graham Tuttle, even yourself, like you're sharing great stuff with me. Not even yourself, but you as well. Like, we're forming this partnership now where maybe initially it's like, hey, come up and play with me, but then you can do stuff that I can't do now, and that's what I want. There's lots of people that I've worked with now who are kind of my mentors, who, when we first started, they weren't really in that strong of a position. That's what's exciting as well.
Yeah, that's, I think, just again the power of the community, mate. And that's like, you're kind of really just talking about fitness here, but then there's people in the financial field, in the in crypto or traditional, and then in farming, in real estate, all these things. So let's for people who don't have any idea what Oncom is, we've been kind of talking about it, but can you just maybe really succinctly explain what it is, and then we can go into the weeds a bit about what it's actually providing people?
I will work on being able to give 20-second answers at some stage in my career, but I'm not quite there yet. Uncom itself is the crypto token. UNCOM is a TNT20 token on the Theta network. And it is the pathway to be able to pay men to get better. Like, that is the core idea of Uncommon Success, is let's make it a profession to become this Renaissance man. I'm going to pay you to become athletic, richer, smarter. That's the core idea. We started that when crypto was hot, and then crypto got cold, and it was difficult to express that message to people, and people thought crypto is a scam. Some people still do, and NFTs are a scam. And so, but at the core level, that's what Uncom is. The question you probably wanted me to answer is what is Uncommon Success, and where are we going with the Uncommon Success? Is it's a game. It gamifies the process of becoming athletic, richer, and smarter together with other men. And we track metrics, and we measure the process. We measure the progress. Are you making more money objectively? Are you athletic, richer, smarter? That's what it is. Everything that we build into it is how to make that process smoother, how to create more better courses, better processes, better masterminding, better workshops, and better physical locations to facilitate that process where men objectively become top 1%, top 0.1% men. That's the objective of the game, so that they can be great family men as well. I think it's important to put that in as the core thing. It's like, this is for my family, this is for my wife, this is for my children. And I want my wife and children to be around other families who operate by similar values and really want the best for each other. So as much as I'm good at coaching men and I focus on coaching men, it's definitely not the end outcome is to have amazing families.
Yeah, mate. And I also think, like, if you started giving this as the first outlet for people, like, we're going to talk about men, but I think everyone in general, but instead of like, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling lonely, well, let's get you more athletic. Let's get you focusing on something like a language, so you're actually feeling like you're moving the needle forward, you're challenging yourself, you're bettering yourself. And then also let's get you to understand how to make money so you can be independent in your life, and let's get you into a community to support all that together. Like, I just think the compounding impact this is going to have on men, but people in general, because then it's affecting families. It's pretty amazing when you think about, like, when this really starts scaling out, across the board.
It's very exciting. You can see the testimonials from Q3, the last few months, what happened. And it's crazy how much progress men can make when they put their heart and mind into something and they're challenged to get better. I'm excited to see what the Q4 numbers come in at and what the stories are. There's the two sides. There's like the objective thing of, are our numbers better than the other teams? When you want to win in rugby, you set higher standards. We're going to jump this high because everyone else jumps this high. We're going to lift this much because everyone else lifts this much. We're going to eat this well because everyone else eats this well. And you do that same thing with metrics around life, and you win. It worked in rugby league, and it works in every sport. But winning a trophy is cool, but winning an amazing life is so much better. So that is the game. How do we devise something that doesn't exist at the moment? There's trillions being spent on wealth creation assets and wealth storage and big tech. How much money is actually going into upgrading the human experience and improving the lives of men? It's, for whatever reason, there's not that much money and effort going into that. And yeah, it's cool. It's working. And there's a compounding effect to it, as you say, where because everyone's linked to each other so much, like anytime someone levels up, it's an opportunity for everyone else to learn, well, what did you do? And that is happening. The way that we've structured things, the context is that you have at least one call a week like this, where you're exchanging information and sharing ideas, whether it's something that's publicly broadcast or it's private. But because all these connections are happening so consistently, it is getting much stronger faster. And everyone has the opportunity to help everyone else make more money. Like that's the reality in the whole world. But until you understand it, until you feel that brotherhood and connection, then you don't really put it to work. It's always there. All the people that you look up to, they have these groups around them that it compounds and they all support each other. So we're doing it more consciously and making it available to those who don't have it at the moment and don't really know how to build it. Network effect is a really important concept to understand. Like the power of Bitcoin is because lots of people love Bitcoin now. El Salvador has adopted it. Like initially it's worth nothing. And they were super excited when it got to $1 per Bitcoin. That was like a big breakthrough moment for the Bitcoin community. Now it's worth a lot more. The cool thing about our network though, is that every individual is effectively like a Bitcoin, but every individual is improving themselves. So as each individual adds value, they understand another concept in marketing, their business gets better, the network gets better. It has that compounding effect for everybody else who's in the network as well. And having the governance token of the Uncom token adds another level for those who are crypto literate, who understand cryptocurrencies. It becomes a powerful thing where you think, well, yeah, okay, I would like to own some governance token in this because this concept is making sense. I can see it growing. I can see the real estate component of it developing. So yeah, everything has a tipping point and we're moving towards it with this concept.
Yeah. I'd like you to maybe unpackage how you decided on the athletic, richer, smarter, and mastermind, because like I think about this a lot because there's a big, my dad's got a lot of joint issues. So there's like a physical health component. There's a big mental health issue in my mother's side of the family, and then financial issues as well. And so like financial issues, emotional issues, and physical health issues are going to be the biggest problems that most people are going to run into in life. So if you can get ahead of them now, which is kind of what this is doing for people, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and energy and pain over the long term. So do you want to maybe unpackage how you decided what to put in, what to leave out, and how you're managing that currently?
Yeah. So the concept of healthy, wealthy, and wise, this runs back. Everyone's kind of heard those words rattled off. And the idea of those pillars is fairly well understood, fairly mainstream. The one that's not is the mastermind. The one that isn't part of the schooling system is, hey, you need to get around other people who value these things in the way that you value them. So I think for most men who listen to this, is like, yeah, I value being athletic. I value getting myself to a position of financial strength and abundance, income and managing money. And I value being intelligent. Maybe that's the one that people are least interested in, like learning more languages and learning memory techniques and skills around relationships. And then ultimately the smarter one is about spiritual development and understanding levels of consciousness and going into that. But according to the Gravesian model of spiral dynamics, which I was introduced to by Paul Council, model of psychology, you have to pass through these chapters. And athletic is almost the first chapter of like being able to go hard at stuff, and being disciplined is like the red and the blue. If you explore the spiral, which you can explore through the app that I shared before, like it explains this system. You can look it on YouTube as well, but I don't love the way it's explained on YouTube. Paul does an amazing job. He's a PhD. He's a great lecturer. He lays it out well. So, the first level is like that discipline thing of like, can you control what goes into your mouth? Charles Poliquin said, no man's been mugged by a donut. And he was right. Like if you're fat, like something where, you need to take responsibility for the position that you're in. And so that's the entry level. Is the athletic is that discipline thing of, can you get yourself to do stuff consistently? And then richer is like the orange level in the spiral dynamic of, can you bring a solution to market? Can you turn something into value for others? And then we can start to explore, more of Graves believed that there were many levels above the spiral that he'd written out, and that, the environment must demand the change for you to be able to access what's possible within you. You have to have the environment demand that of you. And so that's the goal, is how do we create that environment? And then having the physical locations gives us a possibility to run any kind of experiment that we want to. If someone wants to be locked in a shipping container for a week with no light and no sound and have that experience, then we can work towards, delivering those experiences, or whatever it is. We've got private land, private spaces. And that's really what's exciting, is where we can go to on the S side of things, but on the smarter side of things. But it's the mastermind that is the thing that everyone forgets and doesn't. It's not in that healthy, wealthy, and wise. We're being told, you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But if most people are honest, they haven't really curated that, where I only associate with men who have these values and are working hard towards them. And that's why I only want my family to be around people who are working towards these higher standards. It doesn't mean you have to be at a high level. I help those who haven't done it yet. And that's what the things are structured around as well. But the Mars acronym itself, and why I like the Mars thing, was because Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is looking to colonize Mars. And while that's an interesting idea and maybe a worthy endeavor, I'm more excited about colonizing Earth with beautiful people living beautiful lives. And we're seeing this massive deterioration of culture and the average mental health, the financial state of people. And I think we've lost a lot of what we had even 50 and 100 years ago, let alone maybe what the secrets of the ages were in Egypt and other times in history. So for me, what's most exciting is like your personal mission to Mars, mastermind to athletic, richer, smarter. That's the story of it. And I love that narrative. It's something I reflect on often of, yes, we could try and start again fresh somewhere else and living shipping containers underground on Mars, but we've got this beautiful planet here and we have this beautiful opportunity to create whatever we want to create. And the challenge is to put our attention on what it is that we want and not put our attention onto what it is that we don't want. And it's so challenging at this time. It's a battle for me as well. It's a battle for everybody. Where do you put your attention at the moment? Because there's black holes for attention that are not leading to good places. And then there's other things you can do that lead to beautiful outcomes.
Yeah, and it's just a positive way of controlling things. Like, oh, this world is screwed. Let's build a new civilization on Mars or whatever. Let's actually just improve where we are now and make it as good for everyone as possible. Like, it's just a much more proactive approach.
It's what I can do. I can't do much for the Mars thing, but I know I can help men become athletic, richer, smarter. I've done all right myself. I've done better than most. I'm not the richest man. I'm not the most athletic man. I'm not the smartest man, but I'm doing okay and I can help. That's what I can do. I don't know about the Mars thing. I don't think Elon's going to put me on his staff anytime soon. So work on what you can.
Let's talk about so 2013, you have this village idea. Then you talked about it on the podcast in 2021. And even then, it's still like where you are now with everything is pretty amazing. And people must have been like, this is, what's this guy talking about? But now it's actually happening. So do you want to explain what's going on with physical locations, villages that are being used? Where are they and what's actually happening in them?
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like a dream to me until recently. And it is a shock how fast it's come on. Why did it take me so long to get started with it? And then, yeah, there's huge progress since that conversation we had in Montenegro. I don't know if had I stumbled across the Montenegro location at that time, or was that before?
This was, I remember the podcast. I was in Thailand at the time. I think
Remember what
you
month it
were in
was?
Montenegro.
Yeah, I
You
was in
were in
Montenegro.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That might be something we might touch on as well.
yeah,
You've been pretty active over the last 3-4 years, with a family and everything. But maybe, yeah, just we can talk about the
yeah,
villages first, and then we can go
yeah.
and touch on that as well.
Yeah. So during COVID, I was sitting on an island called Sark, which is between England and France. And I'd been there for maybe 9 months, and COVID was getting more intense. More people were being coerced into having an injection. And it was bothering. It was bothering for me. Like whether the injection was good or not, we didn't really know too much at that stage. But it's like, wow, there's a massive effort being put out to make people take this stuff, and it doesn't make any sense what's going on as far as shutting everything down in the economy. And so it was a pretty dark and curious time for me, living on this little island. I think it was winter time. It was the depths of winter, short days, that Northern European sort of climate. And a friend reached out, Lyndon, and said, do you want to buy an acre block on the beach in Vanuatu for $50,000? And I was like, well, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Business was going very well at the time. I got involved in crypto in 2019 when I sold my house in Australia. And, I'd had some financial wins with that. I think that was the height of crypto pretty much at that time. And so I was just looking at thinking, well, yeah, like that makes sense. Let's have some land. And I was thinking about buying land somewhere to have something physical, because I had these digital assets. And I was thinking, like, I still don't own anything in the world because we'd sold our place in Australia. So it's like, okay. And then it was, if this makes sense for me, let's see who else is interested. And so we offered it to the community. And that's sort of how my brain works. If it's good for me, then it's good for others as well. So I want to build things that I love and then offer it to others who are interested. So that turned into 10 beachfront bungalows. 5 of them are built, but 10 of friends and network have purchased these bungalows on the water in Vanuatu. It's ended up being in a different spot, which the land was more expensive, but it's like prime land just across the water from the airport. And so that's been an interesting journey as well, because building things in the digital world is pretty instant. You can change things very quickly. We're building in Vanuatu, we're building in Montenegro, we're building in Mexico. And it takes time to build these things, to actually physically put bricks and mortar and things in place. But we've had now, excluding the Bali time chamber, we've had over 100 visits to the villages. And the reports back from the men who've had those experiences is that they're experiences of a lifetime. They've had a big change in their energy and their journey. They're excited to either build their own village or when they go back next. And it gives you something physical and tangible to look forward to. So every day you wake up, okay, I'm going to a village in 6 months. The guys are going to be jacked. They're going to be working hard on their business. Like, it gives you an incentive to improve yourself each day if you're not yet in an environment where that's demanded of you around you. If you see, and this is a contrast that men are feeling, like Daniel Ndabongo is a young South African man, early 20s. He just spent months in Montenegro, and then he spent some months in Mexico. And I love that he's able to have that experience as a young man without massive resources. He's been able to have that experience, but then he went to America. He's got family in America, and he's like, wow, I'm back in the other world. And it's like a real contrast of, wow, people, the standards they're holding themselves to, the conversations they're having, the things they're eating, this is really different. And it's good to be able to experience that contrast. And so, yeah, we have these locations now. We had Sebastian Albrechtsen finish high school and call me up a few days after that and say, hey, I'm done with high school. I'm in, let me get started. And I don't want to go to university. I want to do Uncommon Success. And he's been in the Montenegro village for most of the time since then. He thought he wanted to be a professional soccer player. He came to the Montenegro village, practiced soccer for like 5 hours a day, and he was doing really well with that. But then he went back to Norway and he realized, like, it's just not for me anymore. I've got other things I want to do. Like, I really want to learn business. I want to travel. Like, I'm not going to be this soccer man. And so now he's on the way to Mexico, and he's about to arrive in the Mexico village. So there's Jake, who's in his early 20s as well, maybe late teens. He's in the Vanuatu village at the moment. Like, this is what I wanted for myself. And I'm so excited that these young men are getting this opportunity. We also have men in their 50s, and the oldest player is 75. They get to also go to the villages and be around young men who have these ambitions. And it's a beautiful thing. The Bali village, it did start as an uncommon village. And, I speak with Nico all the time. We're well connected, but it has become its own juggernaut, and it's set a really high standard in terms of the service and such. So it's kind of its own project, but it's kind of part of what we're doing. I am building a house there next to the village in Bali, like 5 minutes away, with some other families. And that's a key asset for the top players within Uncommon Success as well. So yeah, this is where we're at with it. Mexico's looking to expand. We're having discussions around a Greek village, a Portugal village, a Spain village. And so yeah, the fun now is in finding more men who want to have these experiences, who want to be held to this standard. Like that's the key thing for the progression of the villages, is finding men who want to be held, to want to have these experiences. More men.
Yeah. Let's maybe talk about the 2024 forecast or plan, and then it'll be interesting to talk again, in 3 to 6 months and see what's going on there. Do you want to map that out and see like what are the kind of what's not happened yet, but where you're kind of thinking everything's going?
Yes. So on the map for 2024 is building out more of the accommodation on the Montenegro village, next stage of development in the Mexico village. I think by the end of 2024 in Montenegro, we should have at least 5 houses there, dwellings. We have like a tiny house at the moment, and we have some small accommodation. We have a couple of caravans, and we're building out what we call the Hilton, which was originally a goat house. That's being remodeled, restructured at the moment. But I think by the end of 2024, we'll have like a number of sort of tiny houses or smaller dwellings that will give an improved accommodation experience there. Mexico, there will be another level of development, whether it's expansion of the existing site or development of the next one. Bali will have that family village up and running, and I think there'll be like a second family village under construction, which is super exciting. And if you're listening to this and you have a family, or you want to be on that level, like there's a really powerful, good opportunity in Bali with what Nico's doing there. And you can see the quality of the construction and things that he's run. Vanuatu, we will have sold probably 20 to 50 blocks, and we'll have the start of a real city there. There's opportunity for a city in Mexico as well in the south. Like, it's hard to say how fast this stuff goes, Conor, because the internet is a powerful thing now. If someone shares this video, if everyone who listens to it shares it with 3 people, like it can be pretty fast. I think a large percentage of men have a feeling that there's got to be something better, and I'd like to participate in it on some level. So I do think that there will be a big breakthrough in awareness of what we're doing. And so that, I think there'll be 1,000 men in the game who are really consistent with working every day. It's a minimum of an hour commitment to becoming athletic, richer, smarter. If you can commit an hour a day and you're willing to work on your business, have something to offer the world, and you want to be held to a high standard athletically, then, that's the foundation. I see 1,000 men in that game, fully committed, and we can see, how the progress is going, objectively show that we're creating these top 1%, 0.1% men. We will have a Web3 integrated app that is like a App Store app experience. We currently have 2 apps that we've built in a no-code, low-code environment. They're effectively built on top of Google Sheets. And so we will upgrade that experience as well. It should take like 3 to 6 months to have our minimum version of that, which is an upgraded version of what we've done live. And we're making steps to get our first small version of that, which would be like a dense strength app. That should happen in January. So yeah, there's a lot more we could potentially talk about, but
dense strength app is going live in Jan.
That's the target. It's not a very big undertaking. So yeah.
Very cool, man. 2 questions because I'm conscious of your time, mate. First one is, I'll give them to you both at the same time, just so you have time to think. First one is, it's been 2 years since we talked last, so what you've changed your mind on in that time. And then the second one is, imagine there's a guy listening, he's in his 20s or 30s or 40s, he's not in a good place. What advice would you give to him? Because I think it might be easy to be like, yeah, but that's, I'll look silly, or I'll look incompetent if I join a community like this, and I'll be judged or whatever. So yeah, 2 questions to finish with.
Great questions. The number one thing that's changed since that time is understanding the role of man and the role of woman. That's the biggest fundamental change. I had a lot of emotional and health challenges. When you lose yourself in emotions, there is a consequence to that on a cellular level. You will get sick more often. You will have more health issues. And I had a lot of challenges in my relationship. And I have a beautiful wife, and she's doing what a beautiful wife should do. But I didn't understand how her mind works so differently to mine. And I always thought, like, why is this person, why is she not performing like the footy players did, or like the men in my programs? Like, clearly there's big opportunity here for us. Like, let's get training, let's get building businesses. And I realized that she's wired very, very differently, and the wiring of women is very different to the wiring of men. And I won't go too deep into it now, but the biggest thing that makes that concept very solid is the most read book and the biggest genre of books of the modern era is romance. The most read book is 50 Shades of Grey. And men's romance does not exist as a genre. So there's a different wiring that is going on. The primary or a key driver of women is relationships, and talking about the quality of their relationships and searching for that ideal partner. I speak with men all the time. Men don't want to talk about, it's not the first thing that comes up. It's not the second thing that comes up. It's not the third thing that comes up. Like, how's your romantic life? And maybe there should be more conversations around that. And we've had Tully join the community, who specializes in that. And he's doing great work with marriage support. And Brian, Lion Karu, with his embodiment, the sexual energy stuff, like, he's bringing that conversation to us. So it's not closed, but we're wired very differently. Like, that's the biggest thing that's changed. And it's been a huge breakthrough and relief and peace in my heart to know I'm not a bad person and she's not a bad person. And we got back together. I think maybe when we spoke, I'm not sure, but we might have been separated at that time. Like, we separated for 6 months, and it was this new knowledge of who I am and who she is. And that's helped us. I'm not telling everyone that there's one way of doing this, that it has to be the traditional marriage model and that all men are masculine and all females are feminine. I'm just sharing that my model has changed, my understanding, the way I behave has changed, and it has made all the difference for my health and for being able to build this organization. I used to get down, and I think a lot of men will empathize with this. It's probably worth being vulnerable about. It's like, I would go missing from my own business and from my friends for periods of a week or sometimes 2 weeks, because I'd have a fight and I'd have like a bad situation at home, and it would cause me so much stress and anguish and physical problems that it interfered with my training and my business. And obviously it was bad for us. My children were exposed to that energy and that environment, and it just doesn't happen now. It's not happening in the way that it did. I'm not saying everything's perfect, but there's a different understanding, and it's leading to different results. And I haven't started talking too much about it to other men, because I still feel like I'm kind of a rookie in it. But there is some content there for those who are in the pro game. If you want to look in the smarter section and the relationships and sexual intelligence, I have put some of those resources there. And if it's something people are interested in, then I would like to have more conversations around it. So that's the biggest learning. And that probably feeds in pretty well to the second part of the question there of what advice would I have for men who feel like they're not ready for this yet? Like, we've all got battles. We've all got challenges. No matter who you look up to, who you think has got it all covered on the internet, guarantee you, behind closed doors, they've got challenges. I'm not saying they're not who they say they are, but everyone has difficulties. Everyone has a reason to procrastinate or to not put themselves out there. The number one thing I hear from personal trainers is, or people who want to be personal trainers, is once I get my own body perfect, then I'm going to start coaching clients. Then I'm going to start my journey. Or the same thing with a business, or the same thing. It's like, you're not going to be perfect. The best thing you can do to leverage yourself to be more athletic is to put that pressure on yourself of, okay, well, I'm leading other people. They're going from where they are to where I am. I need to keep going up. There's always going to be people who are behind you. So every man who's listening to this, I guarantee you there's something that you're better than other men at. If you're an electrician, fantastic. We need electricians in our network. We understand about being tradespeople. There's guys in our network who can help you with SEO so that you can have more customers, so that you can become better within what you do. It's not personal trainers that we're primarily focused on now. It's like any man who wants to level up. If you don't have your own business yet and you're scared that you might never have your own business, it's okay. Like, it starts with a simple thing as like, let's do a half hour, you organize yourself to have a half-hour conversation with somebody else, or have a 5-day challenge that someone else could do with you. This is the micro offers. It's like, get yourself into that mercantile class, have something to offer. It doesn't matter about how much someone pays you for it. It doesn't matter about how many people you have do it. You're not trying to scale. You want to have that very first experience. And so the reason I'm sharing like some details of the micro offer thing is to make it really understandable that anyone can start. We've got the 10,000 repetition component within the Uncommon Man app, which you can access for free. Like, get yourself 10,000 push-ups. If it takes you a year, great. If it takes you a month, great. But you can start. Everyone can start, and everyone has a reason not to, but everyone has a reason to start. And it is a really supportive environment. As much as it's strong man, it's and you could say it's alpha men. I really buy into those labels, but it's a very supportive environment as well. And there's a group that's around overcoming addictions and weak habits of the past, called the No Comfort Club. And it's one of the most active groups. It's like, leave behind stuff that you're not proud of, and replace that with stuff that you are proud of. So you shouldn't not do it because you think you're not good enough, because that's the reason why you need to do it, and you will be supported to get to the next level. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not hard selling like you have to join this program, but the concept of find a mastermind, be held accountable, connect with others who are doing great stuff. If you know another network that's doing an amazing job with this, like, I would love to hear about it. I want to collaborate and connect with more networks and more places who are doing things like the Uncommon Villages as well. I hear there's something quite similar happening in Mexico. I know other men who are opening places like this in Croatia. I'm all for it. I'm excited for it. It's not competition. Like, we need to change the future of mankind through positive solutions. And so whatever level you're at, you can start. And if you're already doing something that's better than this, great. Like, let's have a conversation about it. I'm happy to promote what you're doing as well. And so, yeah.
Love it, man. That was epic. Yeah, I think that's a really nice way to finish, is that when you're struggling, you think that you need to get to a certain level before you can get the help to get the most out of the help. But really, when you're struggling, that's when you need the most help and support. So like Keegan said, doesn't have to be uncommon success, but like, you need someone in your corner to actually get you through this and get you onto the path that you want to be on going forwards.
Yeah. And if it's a simple approach to getting a great body and being habitually better physically, like Conor's your man. Conor's got a great program that's developing physical ability. And if that's all, if that's where you want to focus at the moment, you don't want all this other stuff, like, that's fine too. Like, start where you're at, solve the thing that you need to solve right now. If that's fitness, Conor's great. And there's other great men in our network as well, all around the world. Like, everybody knows the next step. You don't have to know all the other steps. That should be a message that comes out of this. Like, I didn't know how I was going to get to these villages. I acknowledged that I wanted to have this possibility, but I had no concept of how it might happen. Now it's happened. I can tell you there's still challenges. There's still a lot of stuff that I need to solve, but I'm smart enough that I'm speaking to men. I spoke to a man this morning who works in venture capital, who has a $30 million this and a fundraising on a $3 million self-sufficient home project at the moment. I'm talking to men who have solved stuff that I haven't solved yet, and I continue to do that. I have multiple calls a week at the moment with men who are way ahead of me in business knowledge. And I've got another one this afternoon, actually, who has a high-end mastermind. They were just together for 2 weeks in the jungle in Colombia. So everything that I'm telling you to do, like, I'm also doing that. And I still have, for sure, my challenges and struggles of, how do I get to this next level? How do I understand raising funds and having a company that's worth $100 million? I know how to build companies to 50 grand a month, but I don't know how to build companies to $1 million a month. And the fun is in becoming the kind of person who knows how to do that and is able to do that consistently, and then teach that to others. So yeah, I appreciate the work that you're doing, Conor. I really appreciate that you wanted to give me the opportunity to share the things that are rattling around in here. There's definitely a lot of ideas rattling, and it's good to have it come out. So thank you, brother.
No, thank you, man. Thank you for the work you're doing, mate. You're really making a crazy difference, and I think more people need to know about it. So yeah, looking forward to the next one. We'll tee up a time sometime in 2024 to review what's happened. All right.
I'd love to hear comments, thoughts, suggestions. Like, this is a very interactive stage of the business. So yeah, those who are listening and stuff resonates, like, please reach out to Conor, reach out to myself, other men in the network, and open to all ideas, suggestions, connections. This is really a collaborative thing. I cannot do this on my own. I'm not doing it on my own. Connor's playing a big role here by helping out, and so many men who I have to thank as well for this. It's maybe this sounds a bit like it's just me, but this has been so many men that have helped this project get to where it is today, and we're just starting. So thank you so much.
Getting started.
100%.
Epic, man. So
That's
good,
fun.
Keegan.
That's
awesome,
fun.
man.
Yeah.
It's so good. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to do, man. Yeah, like maybe once a quarter or whenever, like every probably 3-4 months next year would be pretty cool if you're open to it. Like,
I'd love to. I think it's great for the guys in the network to, even just for them to hear the update and stuff. I do struggle sometimes to express what's happening, what's coming next. So
yeah, even there's like the No Comfort group. I didn't know that existed. So
there you go.
that's good. I'm gonna join that.
I learn something every day. Yeah, there's
Um,
like chat in there about stopping drugs or booze, or some of the guys do it with like porn, or but sometimes it's just caffeine or whatever it's going to be. But it's just the conversation around like those things that you perceive as weak points.
Yeah, big time, man. No, that was awesome, mate. And again, yeah, you're just really making a huge difference, man. So yeah, it's been awesome being in the network. Like as you can see, like things are really ramping up since I jumped in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, you're on
Everything.
fire, man.
Enjoying it.
Have you been on many podcasts lately? Are people interviewing you?
No, that was Sebastian was saying that actually he presented as well. He was like, yeah, you need to try and get on other people's podcasts, like to start finding other audiences and everything like that. So that would be the next 2024, like leaning into that a bit more.
How do we need to get like the other Trivium guys all doing their own podcast. Like it's not rocket science. Do you think you could put a little guide together of like how to, or it doesn't matter if it's resources off YouTube, like whatever you used, or that would be phenomenal to everyone who's got like a bit of an audience should have a podcast. And even if you only do it from time to time, like you can use it as a massive tool and do it amazingly. But even if you don't do it amazingly, it's still value to the other person. And like,
well, like you sound fine, man, and like you're using just very basic headphones, right? So it's not like I honestly don't understand why everyone doesn't have a podcast, and that's like in general. Even if you're like an electrician, you interview all the best electricians in your country, and then all of a sudden you're networking with all the people you want to network with. Like, so I think it's just the ultimate hack, and then listening to someone for an hour who's way smarter than you, ultimate hack again, so
yeah.
So
just saying that, like,
for people.
Yeah. That could be a reel that goes on to Uncommon Success and put it, because people somehow that's a good way to communicate stuff as well. Like make a reel. I started a podcast and this is what changed, and then have the call to action of like, we want you to start a podcast if you want to get the free guide to X. You can put it on your stuff as well if you want, but I'm happy. It's probably not on brand for your channel and even like offering it as a service, but I would like to put that on Uncommon Success, and then that puts you forward as a leader in our community. And like you can splice in some of your training footage of like who you are and what you do. And it's good. Like it's good credibility for you within our network of like, okay, well, Conor's one of the leaders here, like good because we've got that event coming up as well. And then like have that as a call to action, and you can help us out with our socials. Maybe that becomes the one that we start promoting to our audience, getting the cycle of growth going that you've been talking about. But if you're open to it, like that'd be super valuable. And like then I think they're all going to want you on their podcast, which should start that cycle that we're talking about. Like you can call to action on that. I'll share it on my IG and stuff as well. Of like, like if you want me on your podcast, fucking, buzz me. You can flash that you got the 100K now in the post there somewhere. Like it should get the ball rolling.
But that's what, like, if we can get this going next year, if everyone starts collabing and everyone gets on each other's podcasts, the thing's just going to blow, because if you have 50 guys all collabing every single week, and then 50 guys all being on each other's podcasts, it's just going to be everywhere. And I think that's just like, you can just get everyone to be like, okay, I'm going to actually commit and do this.
Yeah.
It's like such a no-brainer for me. That's like a biggest opportunity ever for
Yeah.
everyone in Ancom.
Yeah. And it's like, it's my responsibility to get the message across, but I just, I get spread across so many things,
Yeah,
and it might seem like self-serving of like, I want you to fucking broadcast about uncommon success everywhere, which is not what it is. It's just all your individual
yeah,
businesses need to blow up, and that's one way we can do it. But yeah.
yeah. That would be. I think that's just like such a no-brainer for people. But yeah, we can talk more about that, man, if you want to, like
Yeah.
on our future calls. I'm conscious of your time, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, cool, awesome, man. So if you can send me through the raw file, I'll upload it on my podcast. I'll clip it up as well for reels, and I can tag you and the Oncom accounts.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be amazing, man. I do really appreciate this. Like, this is cool, and
oh man,
yeah.
I love that, man. It was such a great chat, like So again,
Yeah.
it's I've never had a podcast that was like, oh, that was a waste of time. Again, it's just
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
win-win.
100%. And
Um,
yeah, we're forming a connection that's gonna last for a long time and do a lot of cool stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's gonna be fun with all the villagers and all the men, and like, you're gonna, after February, I think you're just gonna realize like there's life's just gonna keep getting exponentially better, and
yeah,
that's how it should be.
very exciting, man.
Do you want to send me a Google Drive link, or do you want me to just upload it there and on my one and send you the link to that?
Yeah, you can send it through on whatever's easiest, and then I
Yeah,
can just
cool.
download it. Yeah,
Cool.
that's
All right.
totally fine.
Excellent. Legendary.
All right, mate. Awesome. Great to chat, man.
Have a great
Take
rest of
care.
the day. We speak soon.
You too, man. See ya.
Champion. See ya.